Hello everybody and welcome to the second review for the second chapter of the Street Fighter 6 comic prequel series by UDON. If you missed the last review I did for the first chapter, please go check it out on my channel. There'll probably be a link above somewhere by now. So if you watched the previous chapter review I did, you'll see that obviously I went into great detail. I went page by page. I'm not going to be doing that this time. I'm going to get into how I'm going to be doing it this time in a minute. But the main reason for this is because we obviously know now how these chapters are going to be released. They're obviously going to be released every Friday digitally for free, which is great. I just wish, that was conveyed a bit because, as I said in the last video, I was really confused because we really had no idea what was going on. From what all the press releases, months ago when this was all announced said, this was basically going to be, a series that was releasing physically only from May 10th, which was the Wednesday just gone. So, obviously, we got the first chapter last Friday, and no real warning or anything like that. It just suddenly dropped overnight for me, and I was I woke up very confused. It's like, why is this happening? But now that this chapter is also released digitally for free on a Friday morning or during the night or whatever your time zone is, obviously we know that's going to be the pattern now. Since that last video though, my the orders I made for the physical versions of the UDONs of this prequel series, because I bought them thinking that they were going to be physical only. All of the delivery dates have been delayed by a few weeks, so I think the first issue, I was supposed to get the first issue like the end of May, as opposed to, getting it May 10th. So I think the reason for this is because I think they said that they're going to be doing the physical versions in colour, because the other UDON Street Fighter comics I have are all, they're all in colour. So I assume, they're basically, to kind of make the physical versions a bit more worth it, they've decided to print them in colour, and I think that's great. I think that's a great choice. Definitely. I don't hate the black and white that the other these issues are in, but it's nice to have color. But at the same time, really wish they'd said that. I think the communication for this comic series has been pretty poor, all things considered. I mean, obviously now that I know now how things are going, it's whatever. But yeah, I was really confused last week, didn't know what was going on, felt like I pretty much wasted my money. In some ways I still feel like I have, but I'm still going to keep the orders because at least, it'd be nice to have them all in colour, and maybe there'll be something extra, I don't know. I doubt it, but it'd be nice anyway. But yeah, so that's the reason for why things are changing, and how things are changing is I'm not going to be going through the whole chapter page by page, mostly because, you can all read it for free. I did that format last time because I didn't know, if people were going to have to read the first issue, but then they were going to have to pay for the second one or whatever. I thought, I'll kind of go through it. But yeah, so that's how things are going basically. I'm just kind of going to go through the chapter, and then when I find something that I want to talk about, I'll just skip to that. So for you, it'll be instantaneous. I'll finish one point, there'll be a bit of a gap, and then I'll be talking about the next point. But that's how it's going to go basically. I'm just going to talk about specific moments and panels and stuff like that I actually have something to say about, because most of this chapter I don't really have that much to say in general. There's some interesting stuff here and there, but the whole thing I don't think is really worth waffling on about for ages. So this video will hopefully be a lot shorter than the previous one. But yeah, with all that out the way, let's begin. So we'll start with obviously what is kind of the big major plot point of this chapter, in that we finally kind of see how Ken has become this kind of vilified figure, why he's on the run in the first place. Because obviously we knew things were going, his relationship with Mel in the last chapter, he obviously wasn't going well. He was doing all these things with Nashal, and it was implied at one point by JP not everybody in Nashal basically is happy with how things are going, and the new government and Ken's involvement. So there was that thing, and obviously at the end of the chapter, Ken and Jackson, Kimberly's uncle, and they get rammed by a truck after being shot at, and then Jackson dies when the car explodes, and Ken is taken by two people. And I didn't actually notice this, but one of the people was actually Chun-Li. Completely didn't notice that. I guess the way Bengis drew her just really made her look a bit more generic. Whether that was the intent, I don't know. But, that's interesting at least. But yeah, so during the actual ceremony Ken and Mel are supposed to be at, Mel and Luke arrive, and then JP's having a big old speech, and then during the middle of it there's an interruption. There's the feeds go down, and then all of a sudden this hacker group guy, this guy in a hood and honestly what looks like a weird kind of plague doctor mask, just shows up, and he's here's this video. Ken's been basically just makes up a story about Ken having been selling weapons to the Nashal resistance and all this stuff, and he's been using cryptocurrency to fund this and that, and basically just completely slandering Ken. And obviously it's a big shock, and people started, getting angry at JP, being like, what's going on, like, what, and Mel and Luke are shocked, and basically it's, now we know why everyone thinks Ken's a terrorist, which, was obvious. We knew it was probably going to end up going this way, but at least we finally seen it. There's a part where we see like people around the world in like coffee shops and walking down the street are all like getting this video of this masked figure from this hacker group saying all these things about Ken, and it shows like obviously people around the world. And I was reading it and I was kind of like, man, like, it'd be really cool if like this is the moment where you see like a bit of Sean or something, like Sean's seen it. Like I said in the previous video, I'm not expecting Sean, like I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I just had that funny moment. One thing though that I definitely think was a missed opportunity, and I said this at the end of the previous video, was like no Eliza. Like I think that would have been a really good opportunity to have Eliza like at home or whatever, seeing it, and then seeing her reaction to it. I'm shocked so far that we've just had nothing from her. Like, I thought maybe we'd get, like, word from her, like, once, people start hearing about Ken's accident, like, oh, Ken got kidnapped or whatever. Obviously, I didn't really think at the time that Ken's, accusation of being a terrorist would happen before, or would happen instead of Ken's accident being broadcasted first, like the news of that. So we might hear from her in the second chapter, like Mel might get in contact with her. But yeah, obviously I said my bit about Sean last chapter. This will probably be the last time I talk about him in this video. I'm not really expecting him to show up in this series, maybe at the end, but really I don't think he's going to show up at all. But I'm really, really surprised at no Eliza. Like, it seems like, obviously Ken's wife, you'd think that she would have a big role in this, but so far just nothing really. It's just really surprising. So after some chaos and people running, because I think, JP's drones start falling out of the sky, and it's just chaos, and Luke and Mel run, because, Mel can't get in contact with Ken, and it's just chaos and pandemonium. We then go to Ken, and he wakes up in a safe house, and this is when we meet Chun-Li, and we realise that one of the people that took Ken was Chun-Li, which I wasn't expecting. I thought that was a neat twist. And basically, they just have a conversation about what's going on, and, like, it's weird, because, like, obviously, there's just, the way Chun-Li acts in this, and I've got a big thing to say about Chun-Li in this chapter, like, a thing that she says that really bothers me. If you see my tweet on Twitter, you'll know what I'm going to talk about. But yeah, she seems just really unnecessarily cold to Ken for some reason. Like, obviously, all these accusations, it's a bit hard to fully say, if he really is involved or not. But, like, at the same time, like, she says she trusts him, and, like, you've always been fair with me in the ring, and, like, the other times we've met each other, they've always been friends and stuff. So, like, yeah, I don't know why she just feels the need to be so cold to him. It just felt odd. Like, you think she would be like, at least be a bit like sympathetic in some way, but no. And then we get to the part that I really hate, and this is going to be a rant. But at some point she pulls out a badge and she says, "Oh, I'm still with Interpol." And that really pisses me off, because if any of you know Third Strike story, or even Street Fighter 5 story, you'll know that Chun-Li retired from Interpol at the end of 5. During Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, she was full on. She'd been retired for a long time now. Shadley was done. Bison was dead. There was really no need for her to stay in Interpol. Like, her whole point of being in Interpol in the series was to take down, Bison and Shadley. And when that was done, she left. And, it made sense. There was no real other reason for her. And the whole point of Chun-Li's, story and arc and character in Third Strike was, it's the subtitle of the game. It's fighting for the future. She was fighting for the future. She was fighting for Li Fen. She was fighting for the orphans that she was taking care of. And it was a new arc for Chun-Li. It was a new journey for her, and it was really interesting. And, like, from what we'd seen in Street Fighter 6, there was no reason to think that they'd gone back on that. But now we've got this comic, and Chun-Li is just now suddenly back in Interpol for no real reason. Like, obviously, it's because, she's now helping Ken out, but, like, she didn't need to be in Interpol to do that. I don't know. I really don't know the logic behind this one. Maybe she's just a temporary thing. Maybe she's going to quit by the end of it, or maybe she's going to be, fired or whatever. But it's just, I just don't get the point of it. I think this is really kind of I kind of want to say slap in the face, but I don't know if that's too strong or not. I'm still going to go with it. It does feel like a bit of a slap in the face to Chun-Li and her arc, and what she went through in Third Strike, to just kind of be like, oh, hey, yeah, by the way, that didn't matter. Like, she just went back to Interpol anyway, because, like, the whole point of Chun-Li, like, I'm not kidding, like, the whole point of introducing Chun-Li in Third Strike, and the subtitle, like, obviously the subtitle for Street Fighter 3 Third Strike is Third Strike, but, like, the subtitle, if you will, is fight for the future. Like, it was literally the whole point of her arc was like, I'm done, I'm done fighting the bad guys, I'm done fighting my past with my dad, like, I'm fighting for the future now, I'm fighting for these kids. Her ending, like, essentially says this out almost verbatim, like, I'm fighting for these kids, and they're just gone now. And yeah, I just don't get the idea. I don't get why it's happened like this. It's just so, I don't know. It just really rubs me the wrong way. Like, and it's so weird as well because obviously this is being written by Capcom, and like so far they've been pretty like decent in terms of kind of like, you know, not 100% following on from Third Strike because obviously it's been so long now. Like I said in the previous one, at least 5 years since Third Strike. So obviously things change, but like at least with like Ken and Ryu, they were like somewhat kind of like, you know, following on from Third Strike in a way, but like, yeah, why Chun-Li has just now completely just reverted back to how she was pre. I mean, like not even Street Fighter 3, like even Street Fighter 5, like her character story in Street Fighter 5 was setting up her relationship with Lee Fen. That eventually leads to her, you know, running the orphanage in Third Strike, and like to go back on that, like the game that just, you know, not just happened, but like the previous game that was, you know, building up to Third Strike. I don't know, just seems really weird to me. Obviously, we'll see what happens. This could end up not really mattering, and by Street Fighter 6, she's back to being, you know, not with Interpol, but the fact she's just back with Interpol at any point post Street Fighter 3 is just really weird to me. Like, this is one of the more kind of like, it's honestly in terms of story, this is probably the first thing I've had like a major issue with in terms of just like, why do this? But yeah, that's pretty much all I really wanted to rant about. I just really don't like it. Like, it's that thing where, like, I'm not a huge Chun-Li fan anyway. Like, I do like her, but she's not, like, one of my favourites or anything, especially in Third Strike. I'm, like, I barely play her. I'm just not, you know. But, like, even then, saying that, not being that invested or bothered with Chun-Li, like, this still bothers me because, like I said, it was the literal, like, it was the subtitle for Third Strike was Fight for the Future. And, like, you know, it's so, like, you're just going against the whole message of that and the whole message of her ending and what she went through in her arc, and then not only that, but then the ending of 5. Like, you're going against a lot of things for something that really serves no purpose. Like, obviously, because there's a point where she pulls a gun on Ken, which is really weird because, like, obviously Ken's gonna react strongly to finding out that he's being framed as a terrorist, you know, funding militias and shit like that. Like, obviously Ken's gonna react badly. When he jumps up, she pushes him on the bed and just pulls a gun on him, and it's like, what the hell? Like, honestly, I honestly don't, like, part of me doesn't think this is Chun-Li because she just seems so different. But like I said, we'll have to see how it goes. But yeah, this is probably the only thing so far in the story of Street Fighter 6 that, like, I'm just not a fan of. Like, flat out, I just don't like. So, you know, it's a shame, but it was probably bound to happen eventually, really. We then get a couple of scenes between Chun-Li and Lee Fen. Lee Fen is obviously still a hacker, which I always thought was weird. Like, obviously that was established in 5, but like I never looked at that character and would have thought, you know, that's like, obviously this little girl is a hacker. She's a, you know, a mastermind hacker. But it's whatever. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. But yeah, so Lee Fen's obviously still a hacker, and she's basically, by the looks of it, she's kind of like basically just sat at a computer, like, feeding information to Chun-Li while she's in Nepal. So it makes sense, but it's kind of that thing of like, obviously Lee Fen was obviously the most important of the orphans to Chun-Li. I think that was pretty much the case even in Third Strike, really. Not as much, but like it was definitely established even more in like 5 that like Lee Fen and Chun-Li had more of a bond than just, you know, one of Chun-Li's orphans. But it is kind of like how did Chun-Li like deal with the other orphans? Like, because she's obviously gone back to Interpol. Like, did she just be like, okay, bye, I'm going back to Interpol, goodbye other orphan children? You know, I don't know, it's really weird. Like, I don't think we're ever gonna actually like find out about them. Like, I really don't think the orphanage is going to get mentioned in 6. It's, like, even more now, like, I think that stuff is pretty much left behind. But yeah, it's just weird, like, the whole thing is so weird to me. But yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of that whole scene. And then basically the comic ends with Ken breaking away from Chun-Li. And obviously, I don't blame him. Like, the way Chun-Li was acting towards him, like, 100% I would have ran away. Like, to be honest, it'd be one of those things where it's like, I doubt it'll happen, but like, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that this Chun-Li is not Chun-Li, is someone else. Because it's just really different. Again, I doubt it because we've seen Lee Fen, but like, yeah, just really weird. But yeah, that's pretty much the chapter. Obviously, Ken just runs away from Chun-Li, he disguises himself, and he just flees deeper into Neishal. So, be interesting to see where he goes from here. We're already like halfway through, which is kind of crazy. Like, I know we've known the whole time it's a 4-issue series, but like, I think, hang on, let me check days. So the next issue is the 19th, and then the final issue should be the 26th. The final issue was meant to be the 31st, but obviously that's changed now. So yeah, the next issue is the 19th, and then the final one's the 26th. But yeah, crazy, we're already halfway through. Be interesting to see where it ends. Is it going to end like right up to where like Ken's story starts in Street Fighter 6 with him already back in Metro City? So we know he goes back to America at some point. Interesting to see how he gets there. I think that's probably going to be where it ends. Like, where it ends is going to be Ken going back to America or whatever. So But yeah, we're all about halfway through, but it's interesting. This was kind of more of a lull chapter, really. There wasn't like a whole lot going on. It was just obviously Chun-Li getting introduced. It was definitely like not expecting her to like be kind of so not like antagonistic. Like she wasn't like hurting Ken or against Ken, but she definitely wasn't on his side. Like I didn't get the feeling that she was on his side in this like fully. Like obviously she was trying to help him, but like I don't know, like I said earlier, she just seemed like weirdly just against him at times, and just kind of like not really willing to hear him out or let him help or whatever. Like obviously Ken's in a situation where he can't really do a ton to help, but like at least kind of like say some nice things to the guy. I mean, it's basically his public image has just been destroyed, and he's just he's just survived an assassination attempt. Like give him a break. But yeah, so that's it really. Like I said, this was just going to be a short one. Like there wasn't that much in the issue anyway, but now that I know that these are being released for free digitally and everybody can just go and read them, like I don't really feel the need to go through the whole thing page for page, and because there were some things even in the first chapter that I covered that like wasn't that interesting, but because I was doing it page for page, I felt like I had to say something. But yeah, other than that, I'm going to leave things here. I shall hopefully see you all next week, next Friday, for the third chapter and the penultimate chapter of this prequel series, and then not long then to the release of Street Fighter 6. Yeah, other than that, I shall see you all later. Goodbye.
We await your return, warrior.